This is a WUFI Passive tutorial on calculating the specific heat capacity in WUFI Passive. So in WUFI Passive, under the Zone 1 branch, you see that there's an entry for specific heat capacity. Actually, there's an entry for this in each zone. So if you have multiple zones, you'd enter this more than one time and calculate this per zone. The specific heat capacity is essentially asking what is the ability of the materials in your building to store heat, and what is the kind of interconnection between all of those. So you can see here there's multiple drop downs. You have lightweight, mixed, and massive. Lightweight is the most conservative, and this would be accepted probably for any project, especially most wood frame construction projects are lightweight. There's the option for mixed, which you might get into if you have a significant amount of concrete or heavy surfaces, and then massive, which is pretty rare to have all kind of exposed heavy surfaces on the interior. And then of course there's the option to calculate this. So you do not need to calculate this if you don't want to, but if you'd like to get into that detailed calculation, you can use user defined. If you do not want to calculate it, my best advice is just choose lightweight. It's the most conservative. Okay, when you click on user defined or you select user defined, you can see now there's this ... box, and it asks for the number of heavy structures in the building or heavy surfaces. PHIUS has different guidelines on what is a heavy surface, so let's take a look at that. So in general, the first ½ inch of drywall is included and is not included in the baseline calculation. It's just assumed that you have that on every surface, so you would not include this in your calculation. If you have 5/8 inch drywall, it counts as a third of a heavy surface. If you have double drywall, it counts as half a heavy surface. Or if you have concrete, phase change materials, those count as one full heavy surface. And then also flagstone and tile count as half a heavy surface. This is all taken from the guidebook. So let's look at this particular sample project and kind of figure out where the different heavy surfaces occur. So the real way to do this calculation is to break out each room that you have in your project. So each room is generally enclosed by 6 surfaces. You have your floor, 4 walls, and a roof. So you take each room and you figure out the number of heavy surfaces per room, and then you find an average for your building. So for this particular building, let's take a look here. So this living room on the first floor has 1 heavy surface at the floor. At the walls, it might have part of a heavy surface depending on the gypboard used. If it's anything above ½ an inch, it would count. If it's just ½ an inch, it does not count as anything additional. So let's say there's none in the walls here, ½ inch drywall. So 0 heavy surfaces for the 4 walls. And then there's 5/8 inch drywall on the roof. So this counts as a third of a heavy surface. So for this project, let's look at the calculation here. For the first floor has 1 heavy surface in the ground. Again, that's the slab. ½ inch drywall on the walls, so no heavy surface. And then 5/8 inch drywall on the ceiling, which gets you to 1.34 heavy surfaces for that first floor. You could have broken this out into rooms, but all of the rooms on this first floor are the same. So we're taking this as one floor versus the second floor and weighting it that way. For the second floor now, it's almost identical except for we don't have that concrete slab, so we don't have that heavy surface at the bottom. So we have 0 for the floor, 0 for the walls, and we only have that 5/8 inch drywall. So we have 0.34 for each room on the second floor. So now you look at the average room. So I would add the first floor and the second floor, divide by 2, which gives me the average room has a little less than 1 heavy surface, has 0.84 heavy surfaces. So now I'd come in here and I'd enter 0.84, and you see how that auto-filled here. So number of heavy structures here is 0.84, and I did that calculation. It shows me the heat capacity is 14 BTU per foot squared degree Fahrenheit. I say OK, that auto-fills. And now that's somewhere between the default for mixed, which was 23, and for lightweight, which was 11. It's at 14. So it's a little bit more than lightweight, but not much. You'll also see under this that there's a humidity capacity entry. This is just a default for WUFI Passive, so do not change this unless you have reason to believe that the building materials you're using can store more moisture than a typical building. So recommend using the default when possible.